Ellen, yes, the mother of A Christmas Story and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Rest in peace.
Is it just me? Or is it getting crazier out there?
Hey, everybody, welcome to Late Late Horror Show. I'm Dino, and hey, Aleece, what is going on?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you again. This is the first stream, and I think she's done like this, so hopefully everything stays clear and looks good and sounds good.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, yes. Hopefully everybody's enjoying Aleece's retrospectives on Thursday evening, or no, Friday evening. We film it Thursday. Yikes.
Yeah, film on Thursday, goes live on Friday.
Yeah. So real quick, let me say hello to everybody in the chat. I'm a Psycho. What's up? Good to see you. Janet Thedo, Edward Stewart, WWM, Connie Cleary. Aleece is in there. That's MST 3K Khaleesi. There you go.
That's me.
Yeah, Janet. Horror Junkie, I know you're listening, but resting a bit there. Frontier Studies. Definitely good to see everybody. So yeah, Aleece, we're tackling kind of a pretty big film here in general, and I think it's the first time watch for me and you, which is
Yes,
strange because it's such a big film and it has
I
influenced so
know.
much, right?
What was that?
It has influenced so much too, right?
Oh, yeah. And, I kind of got the feeling of like imposter syndrome having never actually seen this, like being aware of the influence it's had on the slasher genre most of all, but never actually watching it until this afternoon.
Right. Oh, you watched it this afternoon? Okay.
Yeah.
I did last night, so it's fresh in my head. Hello, Becca Too Tall. Says hi, everyone. Just finished watching the film. Good to see everyone here.
Nice.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, listen, this is A Bay of Blood, 1971 by Mario Bava, which is interesting because last week I did a Mario Bava film, Hatchet for the Honeymoon, which, again, both films he kind of tackles, both of them, even Blood and Black Lace. Mario Bava tackles this in an artistic fashion. He borders the line between what's Giallo and slasher in this film. And he also, last week, when I did that film, Hatchet for the Honeymoon, borderline supernatural with Giallo. So it's very interesting how Mario Bava works, but he's a genius. In my eyes, the guy's a genius. And it's funny, Aleece, he got the idea for this movie after the last movie I just did, Hatchet for the Honeymoon. Actress, who is it again? Laura Betty came in.
Oh,
Yes, came into, and she plays the tarot reader, that lady. She's always reading tarot.
Anna Fossati in Bay of Blood. My favorite character.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, I kind of want to be her.
Oh, okay. She's interesting. And we'll talk about the characters in a few minutes, but
Yes.
he wanted to work with her again immediately after doing Hatchet for the Honeymoon, because that was their first film they worked on. And hello, Emily Thompson, good to see you. But they got together and they said, well, let's. And her and Mario Bava came up with this idea for Bay of Blood, which, when you think about it, is kind of simple. You know, who would have thought something so simple can make for such a great film and end up being such a catalyst for slasher films to come. In particular, we'll talk about Friday the 13th 1 and 2, because Sean Cunningham, he most certainly has taken from this movie. So yeah.
Yes, part two. We'll get into that.
Oh God, that scene. I mean, he basically stole scenes from Bay of Blood.
Oh, totally. With love, though, with love.
Oh, with love. And again, it's instead of putting down Friday the 13th, because I love Friday the 13th films, there's no putting anything down because everybody takes stuff from the older stuff. They're influenced by old horror films and use elements of what's in those films, right? Every artist does that, you know?
Yeah. And
So,
I mean, I do have to wonder, especially with Friday the 13th, part two in particular. I mean, they probably figured that at that point, not there wasn't a broad audience that had seen A Bay of Blood, and not so much, oh, we can steal this and get away with it, but
yeah.
it wouldn't be called out by the masses like, oh, this was so obviously from this kill in this movie. Like that wasn't going to be a thing back in the 80s.
Right. I think Sean Cunningham said to himself, he saw this in the theater, Grindhouse Theater, and watched it, and he's like, "Whoa!" And he got influenced by it, and he didn't know that the future would hold DVDs, Blu-rays. Even the VHS and all that came quickly after. I don't think he knew that people were going to see this film and go, "Wow, okay, so." Friday the 13th 1 and 2, in particular 2, the spare scene, which we'll talk about, almost exactly. So, I mean, I'm not going to say steals, but he takes, well, he does steal the scene, right? They're kind of frame for frame. Am I wrong?
Right. Mike Barrett in the chat, Hatch in the Face was also taken from this film for Friday the 13th. Yes, we'll get into that. Was
Yes,
he
Mike Barrett.
a grip hook in Bay of Blood? But yeah.
Yes, and the wheelchair scene. There are a couple scenes that directly
Yeah.
influenced Friday 13th 1 and 2. But I mean, nevertheless, listen, it's an homage to a great film, which is Bay of Blood, which you can't take nothing from that. So, Mike Barrett is a big Giallo buff, and good to see you here, Mike Barrett, for sure. Yeah, and I'm trying to think. This pretty much is a simple plot, right, Elise?
Simple yet convoluted when it gets to the who is killing who and why. It makes sense in the ending, but as you're going, it's confusing as you're watching it.
Yeah, that's my thoughts exactly. When you watch the beginning of this film, and the whole movie kind of just revolves around a will and a countess who ends up dying, which we'll talk about in a few minutes here, and the property around this bay, which people are greedy and want to get their hands on and build and make money, a resort, but nobody else wants that to happen. So, it kind of revolves all around that, but it does start out in Giallo fashion with the gloved killer and all of that, at the beginning,
Yes.
right? Yeah. But then quickly veers off into something totally different, and all kinds of different killers start getting involved in the film, whereas a Giallo usually
Right.
just one killer,
And I wrote that in my notes, like, typical classic Giallo shot of the leather gloves being removed, and then, oh, well, we saw who the killer is. We see his face. Okay, that's different. And now he's dead. Well, this is a turn. Fun.
Yeah. No, I thought it was really, again, Mario Bava kind of changing things about. Hello, Kathy. Hugs to you. Good to see you. Night Fright Talk Show. Good to see you. Yeah, it's there's something about Mario Bava. Listen, let's talk about him real quick. I mean, the guy's a genius. He's an artist. He had to become his own cinematographer for this film too.
Because they had
So,
almost no budget.
right.
Which I'm so glad for it, because his cinematography is absolutely gorgeous. And, it makes me think of John Carpenter's Halloween, where he had to uh, create his own soundtrack. And that ended up being so iconic and like probably miles better than anything else I could have done. And I love when like low budget happens to create that greatness. And with the low budget of Bay of Blood and Bava being his own DP, like absolutely, like that was one of my first notes. Like, oh my gosh, love the visuals of the opening titles. Oh, he was DP too. Wow.
Oh yeah, listen, the movie I just did, Hatchet for the Honeymoon, he actually put together the opening credit sequence, which dealt with the whole movie dealt with about burning bodies, and I won't give nothing away in case you watch it, but burning bodies. So there were ashes kind of thrown over the kind of the credits at the beginning, but he did an
Ooh.
awesome job at it. I mean, it was really good. So the guy has an artistic eye, but as low of a budget as this was, I mean, there were, and him being his own cinematographer, the camera had to be on a little kid's wagon a lot of the time.
Yes. And
And
there was no forest because it
yes,
was filmed at the producer's beach house. So they had to just get like sticks with foliage on it and place it in front of the camera to mimic the look of, okay, like we're shooting behind actual forestry, which I had no idea watching it until afterwards, like look, because I wanted to go into this as blind as possible and then like look up look up production notes and things like that. So and I'm really glad that I did. Yeah, because I never would have known.
Oh, I always do that. Listen, never look up facts before you watch the movie because, first of all, things will get spoiled. But yeah, you want to go in kind of blind. Illuminati Land, Bava is amazing. Yes, he is. Elise, have you seen Blood and Black Lace yet? Yeah, it's
I
like,
have not. I have not seen Blood and Black Lace.
oh,
So
it's a very
yeah.
early one, and it's very, very good. It's very, very good. But the thing I was going to point out was just the way he did things. I mean, with the camera work, and he kind of uses the camera to where it's almost like, I mean, it's constantly moving left, right, in zoom shots, out
A
in,
lot of match cuts.
yes. And I think with the way he did that, it kind of made the camera the observer, which made us the observer, and it made you feel like you were there almost, running through the woods and watching all these kills. It's
Yeah.
an amazing thing that he does with the camera.
Yes. And a film like this could be very very isolating to the audience. And the way that he does use the camera and everything, the way he makes you as the audience a part of the world is really astounding. And then it also creates a lot of it can create a lot of uneasiness, especially for audiences back in 71, where so much of this was very novel and it was so, so bloody and considered so graphic that being sort of a part of the world of this story kind of adds to that element of horror and adds to just the disgust and uneasiness, which, could be something you love, or for a lot of critics and audiences really hated it at the time.
Oh yeah, listen, I think it got oh geez. It was the first or the second movie in the US to get the V for violence hooked to it. But of course it was in Italy, they kind of censored every Italian Giallo film that came out during the period. But it's kind of funny actually, because they kind of are very much more open when it comes to that kind of stuff. But anyways, that's just a different subject matter altogether. Hello, Anita Green. Good to see you. The original opening credits to Blood and Black Lace are so much better than U.S. reproduced titles. Well, yeah, of course. And the camera work, when you were talking about like making it look like wooded scenes, they would put it in front of the camera, just like branches were like branched out in front of the camera, because just to make it look like there were woods around. And everybody on set would laugh and go, "Oh my God, this is the funniest thing ever." But yeah, very interesting. Useless wrestling knowledge. Mario Bava was a cinematographer before becoming a director. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. He dabbled. Listen, filmmakers will dabble in a little bit of everything. But when you're directing and writing, and then you got to take on cinematography and editing and everything else, which I think he likes to do because he's an artist. He wants everything to come out the way he wants it to come out, right? I mean, I
And
get that.
Bava, he was also a just straight up photographer as well prior to becoming a director, I
Yeah.
believe.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Which lends us to, or leads us to, all of the names that this movie went by. Also, which a lot of people here in America know it for Twitch of the Death Nerve. Also
Which
went
is
by.
such a great title.
It is.
I
It
want
is.
that's gonna be my band name, Twitch of the Death Nerve, playing at the Agora.
Yeah, I can see that. And Carnage, not so much. Bloodbath is another one. They even, I think you may have seen this when you looked up Last House on the Left. Did you read that up? No?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go.
Okay. You want me to go ahead, or you want
Keep
to tell?
going.
Okay.
Gonna
So
sip my tea.
Last House on the Left, Part 2 was a title for this film also, which they just did that to kind of grab the American audience, because Last House on the Left, yeah, it was very crazy. But that was also a name. Did I get that right, Elise? I think so.
I think so, and that would have been really interesting had they gone with that. I wonder if Wes Craven would have let that fly.
That's
But
true. Well, it did open in theaters with that title, but quickly, they took that out. But anyways, I didn't dive enough into that. But there were several working titles, which they eventually set on. What did I say? Ecology of Crime was
right.
the working title, and it makes a little sense, but I could see why they didn't go with that. But man, there were a list of names for this movie, for working titles also. But anyways, just a a great movie, a breakthrough, kind of the grandfather of slasher films.
Oh,
If you don't,
definitely. Like
yeah,
this
yeah.
was for yeah, definitely the progenitor of the slasher film genre. Like even like more so than any other Giallo film or prior Bava films. Like this was kind of it.
Oh yeah,
And
and yeah.
especially I mean you see its influence in its DNA all over the place, but kind of why I have my little art thing here and my shirt and my coffee my mug because
Yeah.
its imprint on Friday the 13th part 2 especially is just so huge and I love it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Did I miss somebody in the chat? CJM753BC. Hey, what's going on? Good to see you. Yes. CM, what's going on? Getting us to, anyways, definitely good to see everybody. Make sure you guys give thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already and you're watching this. Leave a comment below. I will always check the comments and get back to you. And Nabes hugs. He Nabes hugs.
Nabashug.
Knobs hugs.
He's
Okay.
making fun of how I flub my mouth words.
Knobs hug. Is that what that's about?
No, what he his username, it's a whole thing, but coffee mug, yes, coffee mug.
Oh,
Thanks.
coffee mug. Ah, okay. So there you go. Yeah. Listen, there's nothing wrong. Yeah, Lisa, she has her own vocabulary,
Yeah, it's
Sometimes,
excellent, you guys. It's super excellent. What
yeah,
were
it's
other
like an
things I've said
excellent
in my
show.
videos?
Yeah. Listen, there's something to it, so whatever. I think it's great. But let's start talking about the movie itself. How about that?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to. And again, there's something we at the end we may allude to it throughout this discussion. The ending of this movie, Elise, is so tripped out.
There's no way you would see it coming. It's
No, no. There's a
like
little
I laughed out of such surprise and shock. Like, did that just happen?
right.
Is this real life?
There's two things. Well, there's one thing for sure. Italians, especially the Italian Giallo films and Italian movies in general during that period, they ended every movie in a weird way. But this one, it just, you don't see it coming. It's strange. You're like, I mean, technically, it don't even need to be there, right?
No, like you could have just ended it, and
Yeah.
there's no well,
Repercussions for it being a bad film or nothing like that. It's like that didn't need to happen at the end. I don't know what that is, but
yeah,
anyway.
and like there's no Chekhov's gun where it was set up and like, oh, this is going to show, this is going to be a thing. Like it just happens.
Yeah, we won't. Yeah, we won't say nothing. Hey, Icy Bird, good to see you. It's been a while. Definitely good to have you here. Yeah, let's start this film. Go ahead, Elise. How's this film start off? Should I talk about the
Well,
characters?
the film proper, or are we still talking the opening, like the opening
No,
title?
yeah, no. Let's go right into talking about this film because
Okay,
we don't got to go scene by scene. I mean, there's things that
right.
stand out, and I think that opening too. We can go over that real quick again, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I love the opening titles, the music, the soundtrack, and the visuals. I really really enjoyed.
great.
Like the music throughout this entire film is very interesting because there are some moments where it is kind of like softcore
Yeah,
music.
yeah.
But throughout the opening, it almost feels romantic, but it has like these hints of foreboding and mystery, which I really enjoyed. And then
Yeah.
The sequence ends and you just hear the water on the beach, and then that transitions to the squeaking of the wheelchair of the Contessa, and I loved that bridge.
Oh
I
yeah.
love little like audio.
Transition between those
Yeah,
two.
it's so good.
And I have to say real quick, since you were talking about the music and the soundtrack too, there's scenes. Again, you said romantic. There are scenes when there's certain music when the kill is happening, especially when Simon gets it. They die, and then there's this music that cues up, and it's like
Yes,
a very romantic Italian love song, and you're like
yes,
going,
and I'm like, movie, what are you trying to make me feel with your score right now?
"Here's death, now feel love." I mean, I don't know what that is all about, but it
Here's
worked.
death. Now feel love.
Yes, but it worked. It really went over well. I thought, just seeing it, and then it just puts you in this kind of mood, or just going, okay, okay, and then it transitions again. So, but the
Yeah.
opening scene, like you were saying, transitioning to that and the wheelchair, which describe this scene, at least, because it's some people said it's
Oh
almost out for Hitchcock like, but a
yes,
little bit maybe.
I could see like my mind didn't immediately go to Hitchcock, but it was
Mhm.
just like, my God, how this is so beautifully shot.
Oh yeah.
Just as she's like wheeling through, and just the scope of the room. And there is one shot, like it goes to from behind, it goes to a master shot, and it just makes the entire set feel so giant, and she just feels it just, and this happens a few other times throughout the film, but where it goes to a master shot of the set, and the character in it just feels so small and isolated and maybe helpless, and it just looks, the set design is gorgeous, and just the shots are choreographed so just beautifully. Like, I was just blown away immediately by just how wonderful the cinematography was.
Oh, Mario Bava does that in all of his films. There's always a like main large like living area or pan out that just is beautifully set, and he frames a lot of his scenes and work around that in that scene, almost like a play or kind of like in theater. So
Yes, it is very theatrical,
yeah.
kind of very Citizen Kane-esque in that way.
Exactly. And I listen, he could have pulled some inspiration from that alone, because
Very
the way
possible.
a lot of his shots with people coming downstairs, and it's shown in this movie too, when we get to the tarot lady, who is Anna Fossati.
That's
Every
so
time,
funny that you said Tarot Lady, because I did not know her name throughout most of the movie. So in my notes, I just called her Tarot Lady.
oh yeah,
That's
no,
just what I
listen,
called her.
yeah, you got to
Just Tarot
describe each.
Lady.
Yeah, you got to describe each character, and Tarot Lady kind of is who she is.
Tarot
But the
Lady.
camera's like at the bottom of the steps, and he does this in a lot of his movies, where every character coming down the steps, it's shot at this angle looking up. That's just, it's beautiful. I love the way he does it. But there's also in that opening scene, when we mentioned Alfred Hitchcock, there's Hitchcock always put a killer in where the murder took place. And that happens a lot in Giallo films, but Alfred Hitchcock really emphasized that. And in this film, this opening sequence, I think they do that too. After we find out that the who we thought was the killer, right, Elise, isn't the killer.
Yes. But one thing that I noted and that really stuck out was when the Contessa is being killed. She's lassoed basically, and I'm thinking Phantom of the Opera a little bit, like, oh no, keep your hand at the level of your eye, because I'm a music theater nerd. But anyways, but as she is like kind of slowly being strangled to death, but
Yeah.
her wheelchair is kicked back and it falls over. And the wheel gradually starts spinning more slowly and slowly as her life is seeping out. And oh, I thought
I
that
love
was
that.
so wonderfully done. And as
Yeah.
she dies, the one wheel on the wheelchair stops spinning. And I'm like, oh my God, that's beautiful. I love this. And a very
Yeah.
kind of the focus on her as she is dying was, it's not bloody, but I found it like, scenes like that, especially with like strangulation, can be a lot more disturbing than even, a grip hook to the face or something, because there is something, because it's slower maybe, and it's
You get more emotion out of a death like that than a quick,
yes,
gut wrench. You know what I mean? This is
yes,
more prolonged and just gets you
it's
slowly.
personal.
Yes. And slowly puts you in that, this is a little eerie, and
Yeah.
makes you a little bit different. Yeah, for sure. It was very well done. That's for sure. I love the way he done it. Um, but we also get introduced. We think that, okay, there's a Giallo killer, the gloves, everything else, and then when she is just hanging there, which is creepy enough, we get this. And the Contessa is the older woman who owns everything, the bay.
Yeah, she owns the property of the bay.
Yes, and this is what, again, the whole movie's about: her will, her dying, and somebody killed her, and they are going to try to set her up with suicide, but we see somebody else come into frame, and it's her husband of all people. I thought it was the killer because he takes gloves off, right? And you think, oh, he just killed his wife, and right, Elise? I mean, it's her husband.
Well, it was her husband that killed her, but then he gets knifed very, very quickly, and he, as he is dying, bleeding to death, like he's directly under her, and her hands are kind of hovering over his face. I'm like, wow, what? The last, he killed his wife, and then the last thing he sees after being stabbed to death is his just murdered wife that he murdered himself, just hanging over him. Like, well,
This adds to the brilliance of Mario Bava.
yeah.
Well done, well done. Let her see her husband who just killed her, and let him see the person he just killed. I don't if they can, whatever. It is very interesting that that's the way it happened. But you quickly find out that, okay, this seems like a movie where there's going to be more than one killer, right? I mean, that's the direction we're headed. So yeah.
Little do we know at the beginning.
Oh my gosh. And then we are, it's just, we're bombarded with murder after murder after murder. And it so feels like Friday the 13th. It really does. I mean, I felt that way throughout this movie. Did you not, or was it just me?
Oh, much more, like, particularly once a little bit later when the buggy of the younger people come up to the bay, and I mean, I guess we can get into that in a little bit, but just because like this opening sequence was filmed in such a different manner than Friday the 13th, with its very lush production design and the gorgeous cinematography. Like you don't see that level of artistry in Friday the 13th, especially parts 1 and 2. Like I love Friday the 13th so much, but this movie is a lot more artistic. Mario Bava is a lot more artistically inclined as a director and a cinematographer. So I went into this knowing how much of an inspiration Bay of Blood was for Friday the 13th, but I didn't really like, okay, here it is, until kind of we got some of that will become formulaic stuff coming in with the group of the younger kids, or not kids, but the youths, the teens, the 30-year-old teenagers.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. 40-year-olds pretending they're 18. Exactly.
Next week on Riverdale.
Right? Riverdale. Hey, listen, I like Riverdale. Listen, nothing wrong with Riverdale.
I haven't seen it, so I just...
It's a good show. I mean, anyways, that's another topic too. Cathal, good to see you. Greetings, horror fans. First time here. Definitely good to see you in the chat. Everybody else, much love to you. Thank you guys for being here. Thumbs up. Thank you very much. So yeah, there's this opening sequence too after this where we're introduced to a blonde-haired woman. May I say, a very beautiful woman.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, like gorgeous.
Yes. And when you're in this scene, you're in a scene where you're in a room with her. Her name's Laura. And she's with Franco Ventura, who is this, he's an entrepreneur. He's buying up real estate. He's trying to get this property. But they're both laying there, together. And
she's his secretary.
Secretary, yes, exactly. But it's very reminiscent of like it had a 60s vibe to it, 100%.
Yeah, and I love that he kept talking about the squonk, which I know as an American cryptid, which I was really excited and bewildered to find that being talked about in an Italian film, but like the squonk,
Right.
the cryptid, that it's he's just really sad because he's so ugly, and you can find him by following his trail of tears because he's just so ugly that he cries. And I'm like, the squonk is my he's my guy, and I will hug him and love him forever. But I just thought it was really funny that he was kind of comparing her to the squonk, and I just
Yeah.
talking about that. I thought that just brought me both joy and confusion.
Yeah, in these films, Giallo in particular, there's always these couples that don't seem to match, you know? I mean, here you got this beautiful, you know, woman who you only see at this point, and then a little bit later on for a few minutes, and that's it. But you know, anyways, I really meant to showcase the 60s feel that you got inside of the apartment there. And once
Oh
we get
yeah.
out of there, out of the house, then we like get transported to like the early 70s. You know, you start getting that feel again, and the kind of the camp slasher vibe, which kind of I think that brings us up to we can start talking about the kids, or do we need to talk about the other two? Don't they come into
Um.
play?
Oh. Well, really quickly, I just want to point out a note that I wrote down with Franco Ventura when he's leaving Laura. He's going to be going out to the bay, and she's goes like, "Take me with you," and he says no, and then he says, "Okay, maybe you can join me later tonight." And I just wrote, "Dum dum, take her with." like,
Right?
I will take her with me anywhere. She is like the most enchanting person I've seen, outside
I
of the
know.
mirror, of course.
Right? I mean,
No, no.
no, jeez. Li- So, yes. And the point I think you're getting to is when he is leaving, she doesn't just say, "Take me with you." She drops her robe, and
Like,
he's just
well, I'm
going,
convinced.
yeah, I mean, you know, forget
And
about
then
it.
music
Yeah.
starts playing as she drops the blanket or the robe or whatever.
Yeah, it was like a fur kind of blanket. It looked nice, but yeah, I don't know what's wrong with him. There was a little something wrong with Franco. He doesn't play a huge part in this movie. He's more of like, I wouldn't even call him a red herring at this point, because we quickly start finding out that, well, I mean, you
We
really
don't
don't
see
know
either
who's,
of them for for another like 45 minutes.
uh-oh,
Oh no!
oh no, it's gonna fall. That's all right.
It's the
That's all right.
ghost.
But we,
This is what I get for having a temporary setup.
yeah, at least
And
she's gonna
Scott
work
safe.
on, yeah, she's gonna work on a setup. So there you go.
Yeah,
She's gonna
down the
get to it.
line. I
Yeah.
promise. Oh no. It's it's
It's
just my
almost,
apartment is super haunted.
oh yeah,
Doesn't like me talking about bare-breasted women. It's haunted by a puritanical um
well,
Puritan.
sure,
Puritanical
right.
Puritans playing at the eagle.
Hey, I was saying, listen,
I'm just
my
gonna take this
first,
down.
yeah, that's fine. You're fine. You don't need nothing behind you. Anyways, uh, so yeah, there. Okay, and then we're introduced. I was going to say that there's so many red herrings in the middle, because you're confused. You know, there's two killers at the beginning, but then you start to think, okay, well, maybe we're going to dwindle down to maybe one single killer here. But then a bunch of stuff happens, and
I actually was thrown for a large portion of the film,
mm,
uh, thinking like, oh well, this guy is clearly being framed as one of the as the killer or a killer, and I had it wrong for a long time.
which one? Which character?
See, I was thinking for a while that it was Paolo, the entomologist. the
Oh,
bug
yes.
guy.
Yes, there's a weird guy, and CM says Franco is a geek. Okay, CM knows his her. I'm sorry, CM. Oh shush, Dino. CM, she knows her Giallo films, and she's
Oh,
usually spot on. But there's a character called Paolo Fossati. He's an entomologist who his wife is Anna Fossati, who's the tarot reader, which we'll introduce pretty soon here. But
yes.
Paolo is next scene after all this death at the beginning here and the love scene or
Oh,
whatever you want to call
yeah, him
it.
and Simon.
Yes, he's running around trying to catch a fly. And it is strange. And again, something with Italian horror films with and Mario Bava said he felt bad with like what he did to the bug with putting a pin in there. And I mean,
Well, and he killed, like, they actually killed that squid, which
yeah,
not a fan of that.
no, I mean, we'll quickly get past that, but in a lot of those early films, they did things that animal rights would not allow nowadays, of course, and
Oh
even back
yeah, and
then, yeah, and
I
even back then they
know
had it.
Tom Savini had killed a snake in which movie? In one of the it might have been a
Yeah.
Friday the 13th, maybe,
Yes, yes,
but
yes. And when it was in the cabin, yes, and it
yes,
was loose, and what's his name? Kevin Bacon was running around in that film, and they couldn't get the snake back, and yeah, he ended up going in there and killing it. So yeah, but
yeah,
it is what it is. I mean,
different
listen,
time,
yeah,
but
and we'll stop talking about that now. But he's running around like a weirdo, trying to, and you think he's kind of this weirdo, this crazed kind of I need bugs, Renfield type character or something. I don't know. Right?
yes.
He acted like that. Ian Sharp, hello, good to see you. Nice to have you here. He loves his bugs. Yes, he does. It's another funny thing. He's an entomologist. He's in a room after this scene here, which I guess let's talk about that scene. Then remind me to talk about the bugs and how they kind of play a part in this film. But
Oh,
yeah, so go ahead. Talk about how he meets Simon there, Elise.
oh, well, Simon is just he's
While I
on
sip
his
on my Yoo-hoo.
yeah, I've been going between tea and then wine because I don't know, that's how you
Why
treat a
not?
cold in my household.
Yeah, there you go. Tea and wine.
Um, yeah, but Simon's just on his fishing boat, like every other biblical Simon.
Okay.
But he and Paolo have a bit of a almost spat, uh, where Simon is saying that Paolo is wrong for killing the insects for study, and Paolo counters that with, "Oh, well, you just killed that squid." And he's like, "Well, I'm going to eat this squid. I'm not killing for the sake of killing." And then he has the line, "If you kill for killing's sake, you become a monster."
Yeah.
And that's just kind of like, ooh, like, is this going to be a theme of the film? Like, are we getting like into a little deeper, deeper stuff here?
There's little deep jabs and references throughout the entire movie, and I think that's lends to the brilliance of Mario Bava again. Listen, I'm putting him up on a pedestal, but he's up there for a reason. Uh,
Yeah,
has he had some films that weren't so great? Yeah, of course. I mean, nobody's perfect. Dario Argento, one of the greatest to make Giallo films ever, in my opinion, only behind Mario Bava, who started it all. He only had that decade there. Then he kind of like floated away, and nothing was the same after, or even before. But nevertheless, there is that dynamic, like you said, going on there between them. But then we're also introduced to the two characters, Renata
Oh,
Donati.
yeah, Renata and Albert.
Yes, and they're a married
Yes.
couple, and she's the daughter of the Contessa.
Uh, she is the Contessa was her stepmother. It was the Contessa's husband, Filippo Donati was her father.
Okay, okay. Yes, because they end up finding out in the film that once she comes, because they come to the property, um,
Because
she
at this
seems
point
like,
he is missing. There's been no body, so the Contessa is dead, and
yes,
the Count, Renata's father, is missing.
yes,
Like he's super dead, but all as far as they know, or
yeah,
there hasn't been a body found. So
and we are going to quickly kind of jump into certain things because I can't believe it's already 45 minutes into it. But
I know
Jim,
we're like a
yeah,
fourth through the movie.
yeah, Jimmy James. We can get through quick if we want to. So, Jimmy James, hello from Nuremberg, Germany. Good to see you, Jimmy James.
Hello.
Yeah, good to have you here. Listen, yeah, definitely every Sunday we have this kind of discussion on horror movies. Elise has a stream, a retrospective she does every Friday. She'll have something, not Stephen King this week. I think you'll be talking about The Haunting of Hill House this week. So,
Yes, I will, and I'm so excited, you guys. You have no idea.
listen, it's a great series. The best he's done, Mike Flanagan, is, I think you think this one, but I think in my mind, I still think Midnight Mass is my
Yeah, for me,
favorite
it's not
he's
so much
done.
like just yeah, I don't want to say too much before
Right,
like
right,
Thursday or Friday, but
yeah,
it's it's just this one has stayed with Hill House has just stayed with me in a way because like for a lot of things and just hit me like at the right time.
yeah.
Whether or not it's the best, I'm not going to say that, but it reigns still as
And
my
you,
personal favorite. Kind of
right,
like like Star Wars. I don't
yeah,
think Return of the Jedi is necessarily the best of the original Star Wars, but it's my personal favorite.
right.
But that's
We
that's a whole other
no, I got
discussion.
you exactly. So we'll move on from there. See Fractals, what's going on? Guten Tag, good to see you. The Haunting is a great novel, and the original film is a favorite of mine.
Yes, oh,
Totally
I'll be
different.
talking about that.
Yeah, yeah. Schultze, what's going on? Good to see you.
Hi, Schultz.
Wanted to thank Elise for reviewing Salem's Lot, my favorite vampire of all time, Mr. Barlow. Very cool.
Thank
He left you
you.
a nice little comment there. But yes, quickly here, we're introduced to these two, and they're going to be scheming around this property
Yes.
and doing what they do. Listen, they're just, at this point, more people are coming. They're running around the property, and you start thinking, well, what are they doing? But she's really there because she wants the property too. But we find out that they want the property. Renata Donati, she's got, like, I think redder hair. It's all long, and it doesn't really matter what the
Yes.
character.
Former Bond girl, I believe.
Yes, yes. Somebody mentioned that earlier in the chat. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So at this point, we got them. Simon, who we find out isn't the illegitimate son, right?
Yes, the illegitimate son of the Contessa.
Yes,
Or yes.
yes. She had the child through an affair.
Um, so
Yes,
he is technically Renata's stepbrother.
yes.
Yes.
But they find
Um,
out that, I think, right, that he's going to inherit. Or am I
uh,
wrong?
well, that comes a little bit later when they're having the discussion with Tarot Lady and Bug Guy.
Okay.
Um, because
But it
the
wasn't. it wasn't stated that he was getting it, right? I think she just said he's in the way
I
because it
think,
might be
yeah, it was like
okay.
implied that he was actually ahead of her in the inheritance ship.
Okay, okay, so he may have gotten it first. Whichever. Listen, it don't really matter. And
Or at least was at risk of getting it before Renata.
yeah, yeah. So, oh my God, we got to fit so much in, Elise. Okay, jump somewhere from here. Where do we go? You want to get the teens there?
This is when the buggy of the youths come in, and car kids so dead is just, that was my entire note of when they arrive. Like, yeah, they're super super dead.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It seems to be two couples, but go on, Elise. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like characterization goes, they're basically just here to be cannon fodder. Like they come to because they hear about the murder of the Contessa and they want to like explore the bay and kind of like break into an old, like one of the older properties, and then they break into the Contessa's now empty manor, mansion, whatever. But they're just there to uh,
Be
dance
killed.
and party
Be killed.
and have sexy fun times
Yeah, yeah, and be
and
killed.
die. Yep,
Yeah.
that's
It,
basically it.
it's kind of the beginning of a horror trope. I mean, you really never had this before, where you get the whole thing where the teens are coming and hanging out and this is where you kind of get the Friday the 13th vibe, right?
Yeah, this is like
Yeah,
where it really hit home for me. Like, oh, here we go.
yeah. Whereas they're not coming
um,
to camp, but they're coming to a house. But the way they do it, Elise, is just kind of not good.
no, they're just breaking in, and
Yeah, yeah, it's like Clockwork Orange gone wild. I mean, it's you
oh,
know,
they're not that bad. Oh my gosh, like
no,
they're
no.
not. They're just there to be, young people doing young people
But they're
silly,
breaking
sexy
into
things.
people's houses.
Yeah, but they're not desecrating it. They're not, being. Yeah, it's not good, but it's not like,
I know.
you know
Listen, Clockwork Orange is
they
a
don't just.
whole different ball game.
So what you're saying, Dino, is that they deserve to be murdered? Okay, wow, Dean.
No,
Totally
I'm not
messing with you.
saying. I'm definitely not saying that. But listen, they're just coming. They're having a wild time,
Oh,
and
they're coming, all right.
they're having a wild time. And oh boy,
At least
uh,
two of them are.
yes, and it seems like the two are trying to bring in the third, but because
Yeah.
they push Sylvie, the blonde hair girl, off. Yeah,
Well, it seems like she just kind of wanted to go off on her own and just um I don't know, like just go off for a swim and
Sylvia wanted to have fun and dance and swim in the nude. She does nude bathing and that's where she bumps into the father that's floating under the water.
yeah,
Bay of
the
Blood,
handsiest corpse we've
the
seen in a
handsy
while.
corpse. When I may touch
Handsy
you, I'm
corpse.
dead. Woo! But she wants to have fun, and there's a great scene where they're just running about and in this abandoned house, it looks like, and there's a dance floor or whatever it is, I don't know. And she just wants to have fun, and she's got a dress that's literally a shirt. So that what more can I say? I mean,
Yeah.
it's
um
morality. Right, Elise? Yeah, it's just crazy.
well, all right, I actually made a note of it. I think it was after the movie ended, but as far as it being a morality play, it is, to me at least, it is different from what slasher films would become because
Oh yeah.
the first the first person to die out of these youths, really, she doesn't have sex. She just,
No.
she goes for a nude swim. The only thing that, I mean, yeah, like they're breaking into these houses and like that's not good, but
But she
that isn't
didn't.
the reason that they die. The only reason
Right.
that they end up dying is because they're just kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time, and she just happens to bump into the floating corpse of Count Donati,
Yeah.
and then everybody, the rest of her cohorts have to die as well because they don't want any evidence or anyone going to the police.
Right.
So it's not like in other slashers, like with the rules, like if you have sex, you die. If you drink, you die. It's just part of this bigger murder scheme inheritance plot, which is
Right.
very different than what most other slashers would end up doing.
Although, and again, I don't think you're 100% right. The two, we'll call them teen victims, but they're just young adults. They're not even kids.
Yeah.
They're probably in their 20s, whatever. But they are killed during sex. So does it make that? But we'll talk about that in a second. I think the first kill with the blonde Sylvie, I think Aleece, it is such a great kill, and I think it goes down as one of, if you're a horror fan and you've seen Kill, 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 it goes down as one of the most memorable. I mean, you got the killer chasing her through, the woods as she's trying to get up to the house,
Yep, you got some of those POV shots from the killer.
and the weapon, the bill hook
Yes,
knife, that it's a quick motion, but it's almost like in slow-mo where she's running from him and there's a quick, you see a glimpse. I can't even explain it because you have to see it, but it comes through the front. There's a quick turnabout and it like just jabs. And the way it's done, and she falls to the ground. The way it's done is so different and so memorable. And I mean, it's up there. Every kill I think in this film, for the most part, is tremendous.
yes. I think there's only one that's like just kind of off screen, but every kill that we see
A
is
lot of them,
so
yeah,
good.
exactly. And then we end up and you could talk about the next kill. So she's the first. Well, she's not the first one killed, but out of those teens, and then
Yeah, but the
take
first
us to the
boobs we
house.
see, first to go. And then well, then there's the couple, the two of them are hooking up, and I think it's the one guy is just kind of chilling by himself, and he opens the door and he gets uh,
Bill hook
the
knife. Yeah.
bill hook in his face.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, it's so well done. And can we talk for a minute about Carlo Rambaldi?
Yes, please.
The
You talk about whatever. Yes.
because so the makeup effects in this movie were done by Carlo Rambaldi, and like they
Yes.
are all so well done,
Yes, they are.
and not just within the next decade or so, he would go on to win 3 Oscars for the 1976 King Kong. And then for Alien, he designed the mechanical head effects of the xenomorph. And then he designed E.T. So,
Oh, he designed ET.
yes.
It wasn't his
So,
fault.
like, I just,
Anyway,
like, yeah, him doing these effects in 71, like you're like, oh, it's so good. And then you see just what he, because creating some of the most iconic like movie effects and characters like of all time. I just had to point that out because it brings joy to my heart.
Oh yeah, no. Listen, E.T. one of the something that sticks right there in your heart, no matter what.
And just
I'm
another
not.
element of the greatness
Yeah,
involved in the creation of this film.
exactly. And like you said, that when he opens that door and it just goes right into his face and he falls down, then he takes it out and then moves
Oh,
on.
so
It,
good.
it's so good. To a horror fan, you're like going, well done, well done, well done. And then we slowly move to the bedroom scene. And go ahead, you can
Yes.
talk about
Oh, well, uh,
because this is leading up to
I mean, just,
the scene, Friday
yeah,
the
Cliff's Note
13th.
version, the couple, they're, doing the devil's tango in the bed, and the killer takes a spear and just spears them both. And then you do a shot of the spear going underneath the bed, and the two of them,
Well,
it's like
through
through
them,
them, it like through the bed and like kind of
yeah.
into the floor. And as he's approaching with the spear, I just like, Friday the 13th.
Friday the
That was the inspiration.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's no
So
doubt about
that
it.
made me so excited.
That again, that was, and again, right, we got to point it out because it's such a big thing. It's scene for scene, basically.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, I mean, it's they're making love on the bed and while doing the devil's tango, and his spear goes right through the spine, and it's so well done too, to where they're still moving a little bit after it goes through them.
Yeah, it's like they're in they're writhing in death, but it still seems a bit sensual. Like,
Sensual, yeah. Yeah, it's very weird. Like they've been killed and then their body's still doing the motion that until like 3-4 seconds later they're dead.
yeah,
And yeah, and that's where yeah, that's the teens. That's their like little thing, and they just happen to be there, like you said, and they're dead. You know,
yep. And
then
now we're just getting a pretty good body count on this.
yes, we are. Well, again, I mean, we can. Well, I'll wait till the end. Why not? We'll do the body count at the end, but then we're slowly moving up to somebody else comes into that house right and soon after that. Am I wrong?
Um,
No, we're flashed back. We're flashback to the couple, the daughter, Renata
oh,
Donati, Albert
Renata, yes, and they're with
Train.
Bug Guy and Tarot Lady.
Yes, let's talk about them a little bit, right? Do you want to talk about them a little bit? The Tarot Lady?
Yeah, well, Tarot Lady, one of my favorite characters. I love how she is just, well, she's doing, when her introduction, she is doing the tarot cards, and there's like omens of death that is coming to the bay, but then she's
Yeah.
also hiccuping. So I'm like, okay, she's been drinking a bit. I kind of love this lady.
Yeah.
There's incense, and she's just kind of going around with this like black cloak and flitting around her house and around the bay. And I'm like that is the life I want to live. And in this ornate house with this gorgeous kind of cuckoo clock, and just living your best life, tarot cards and the cloak, and walking around the lake. I mean, can I spend my life doing that, please?
Yeah, no, she's an interesting character, and again, if you've recognized her from any of her past films, she was even in Cannibal Holocaust. She usually has blonde hair, and she looks totally different than she did a
I
year
did not.
later.
Oh my gosh, I did not like.
Yeah,
I did not recognize her visually.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
And again, she was just in the movie I just watched, Hatchet for the Honeymoon, where
Mm-hmm.
she was a blonde haired, totally different. She looks more witchy in this kind of in this
Yeah.
film. So
She's got like the black kind of disheveled curly hair.
Yeah.
Like if this movie were made now, she'd probably be played by Helena Bonham Carter.
Helena. Yeah, I can see that, right? Like in Sweeney Todd, that look is
Yeah.
what you can go for her. But yeah, this is what I wanted to get to, alluding to them in the household, where you get a shot of Paolo down, the entomologist, with the bugs in the room where he's got all of the bugs and everything, and he kind of places what's going on with the movie within what's going on with the bugs. I mean, you've got this little, like, not a petri dish, but something, a little bit bigger with the bugs in, where they're
Oh,
swimming
yeah.
around and can't get out, which kind of represents what's going on there at the bay, where all these people are just running all around. They can't get out. They're ending up dead, and even the one that gets pinned down kind of represents Simon's character when he ends up getting
Yes.
speared a little bit later. So it's
And I just
interesting
wrote,
that,
poor bug. He's
right?
pinned down, but he's still flailing. Aw.
It's so interesting that you can kind of see that kind of, how he incorporated that with just little things you might pick up if you've watched this for the third time, the fourth time, something like that. But I picked up on it really quick. And then the weird part comes up. And not the weird part, but I think we jump to the camper, right, Aleece? Is that where we go next?
Oh, with the children.
The children, which we see for 30 seconds.
Yeah, like, oh, I guess these two have kids and they're just like, they'll be fine for the night. Okay, moving on to our whole movie scheme,
Yeah,
murder scheme.
They put the kids to bed, and it's okay.
Well, they think,
They're in
and then
the
they
camper.
drive away, and the kids peer out the window. And then I wrote also, poor kids.
Did you say the
Like they're
window?
just left behind. Like I'm gonna go do a murder now. Bye.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I looked at that scene. I'm like going, okay, wait, what's going on here now? They're going to leave their kids there all alone and take off? I mean,
Like it's the 70s. It's fine. We don't need
I
to
guess so.
keep track of our children.
Yeah, deep in the woods, whatever. So yeah, and then they take back off to the property to talk to Tarot Lady. They want to get some information, right?
Yes, and basically Tarot Lady and Paolo, Bug Guy, they're kind of being very catty, but Tarot Lady basically says that like she does not believe that the Contessa committed suicide.
Right.
That like she knew her pretty well, and like this was definitely a murder. Sorry, Renata, but like I am very sure that your father murdered your stepmother, and
Yeah.
Renata gets kind of pissed, or at least she claims to be, and is like, I'm just here to try to find my missing dad. I'm not looking for your moral judgment on him, whatnot.
Yeah, there's a little bit of exposition there that's being told by Paolo and the entomologist, and explaining everything. It's the only exposition I think you really get in the film, and then everything.
Yeah, it's up until like the explanations later, but yeah.
Yeah. So so that happens. They end up saying that Simon is. I think that she tells him, or Paolo tells him illegitimate the son.
Oh,
They find out all
yes.
of that. And
yes, that Simon is the illegitimate son of the Count.
Yeah.
And that's what puts into their head, okay, well, now we need to get rid of this guy so the line of inheritance isn't threatened.
Right. Exactly. So they're on a mission now to go to Simon. And then you find out uh, they go up to the one house, which is the house of Franco's house. They go up to, right? I don't know why they go up there.
Because first,
Simon lives in a
they go
shack.
down to talk to Simon, and
That's
there's
right.
a tentacle coming out from under like a tarp, and they uncover it, and it is her. It's the Count. It is her dead father, and you've got a real octopus just kind of going on the face again. Like great effects. I love it.
Yeah.
And so Simon sends them up to Frank Ventura's house,
Yeah.
basically just so she can calm down. And then her husband Albert is looking for him.
And this is funny because it's like anybody can walk in anybody's house up at this, wherever they're at.
Yeah, no one locks their doors on this bay.
Yeah, and nobody's home or it's just very weird. But yeah, they go in there, they're resting, and Alberto goes off to I think go back and get his car and drive it back up. And in the
I think so.
yeah,
And
because I
then
think
Renata goes to the bathroom to just
yeah.
splash some cold water in her face, then turns the light on, and there's a tub full of dead teens.
There's a tub full of dead adults. Yeah.
Dead 40-year-old teenagers.
And we're kind of shocked at this point too, because when she sees all of that, who comes out of the one room is Franco himself.
Yeah, and he's got an axe, and then
so was he trying to kill her? I mean, is he one of the killers too? Because we know there's
right at this point I was like, what is going on? Who is, because I wasn't really suspecting Frank Ventura to be a killer at this point, but yeah, he's, I don't know, like all the dead young adults are in his bathtub, and now he's going after her with an axe, and in a really good really like this effect and also like awesome power move, she grabs a pair of scissors and stabs through the glass on the door and stabs him in his leg, and it looks like it might have gotten his femoral artery, so I'm like, that would for sure kill him, but he's not dead yet.
No, I mean, I looked at that and thought, okay, he's dead from stab to the leg, but we find out later he isn't. But when he does come out of the door with the hatchet, I'm thinking, and it's a hatchet. I'm thinking, is he just coming out defending himself? But all the bodies are there, so is he the killer that has killed all the kids because they were on the property? Because he's also after the property's deed too, right? So
right,
I'm confused.
But still, at this point, I mean, maybe other viewers caught wind of what the who was what and what was going on much more quickly than I did. But I was like, okay, I don't know. I don't know at this point.
Well, no, and this is where it kind of like veers off, and in Giallo fashion, atypical Giallo fashion, he's got multiple people killing multiple people, victims, and you're just like confused, and you're like going, wait, where's this leading? What's going on? But that is where he kind of draws the line and pushes it more towards something new, which ends up becoming the whole slasher craze and thing, something we get to this day. So it is interesting he went that way, but yeah.
But then after this, we see Renata and Albert that they are at least behind some of the murders.
Because she starts bullying him.
She's like, okay, you got to be man enough to do this. Like, okay,
kill for me. Go kill for me.
Yep.
Basically what she's done.
Yeah, at this point, I'm like, writing my notes. And Terror Lady's just kind of wandering around the bay, just in her black cloak, just,
She's about ready to get it.
flitting about. And I'm like, daughter of guy and husband behind stuff, because I didn't know anybody's names while I was watching the movie.
Right.
But
There's 2 kills coming up.
yes.
Yeah. Terror Lady and
So is it? So we see Bug Guy. He is going to try to call the police,
Policia.
and yeah, policia.
They're calling the police.
Uh,
I like that he had to get the phone book out to look up the police.
right? Yeah.
Like,
I was like,
please. Oh, there is. He puts it down. Yeah,
and
it
then
was
he
funny.
like dials the wrong number at first, and has to like hang up and start dialing again. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah,
Um,
it's nutty. Hello, Judy Gayhart. What's going on? It's okay. Hopefully you come back soon. Definitely good to see you in the chat. Yeah, so he's dialing on the phone, stuff like that, and that's when Renata pushes Albert out to come in. She says, "Go take care
yeah.
of him." So yeah,
And we get another strangulation death.
yeah. Phone cord.
And that's when I kind of, for a while, been sort of suspecting him as being one of the killers, and like, well, guess I was super wrong. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh no, what's happening with Tarot Lady? Oh no.
She slips into Franco's house. Isn't it Franco's house? She slips in there too. Or is it somewhere else? I don't know where she gets killed at.
She goes in a house. I'm not sure at this point which one it is, but
She gets decapitated.
yep.
There's like one
And
swing. Oh,
one fell swoop, and then it goes into this really awesome match cut of so she gets decapitated, and then a match cut to the kids back in the trailer or whatever, and a porcelain doll, the head falls and breaks apart on the floor.
yeah.
And I'm like, oh, love the match cut. Yes.
Yes. That was interesting. I mean, there was no point to that either, really, but it was interesting. It was an interesting.
I think maybe just to remind us that the kids are there.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That might be just all it is, really.
Yeah. It's, oh my God, we got to get through this. Okay, really quick, we we get that kill. So Tarot Lady and Entomologist is gone. So the kill count's just piling up.
Yeah.
It's one of those films
And
where, yeah.
yeah, and it's at this point where we start to get the actual, like, the motives and what has been happening this whole time.
Exactly.
And so they find Frank Ventura, and Pretty Lady. Was it Laura? Laura.
Yeah, Laura's on her way up.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So they go to a flashback of them meeting with her and trying to convince her to sell her property, sell the bay, and she's saying no. She wants it to be passed on to her, to her descendants, to whoever's in her will. Yeah. And Laura notices her diary sitting out on the table, and she swipes it. And later on, they're looking through it, and it's a certain date, I believe February 18th. But she had been writing dramatically about something. This is the Contessa, and she had written, "Oh dear death, come swiftly, come silently." And they're like, okay, so we're going to stage this suicide on the anniversary of her writing this entry into her diary. Hey, Laura, you're enchanting and super beautiful. Why don't you go seduce her husband and convince him to murder her and stage it as though it was a suicide?
So Franco And he specifies, he says the death will happen on this day because of everything they read in the journal. So
Yes.
yeah, so it's Franco who was behind the killing of the Contessa, and they
Yes.
put the suicide note. So that explains all of that. So again, everybody's, like you said, we're finding out everybody's got motives. Everybody's killing off people for different reasons, again, which is a little bit different than the normal Giallo fashion of the way movies go.
Yeah, very
But
much so.
yes. And then quickly she travels back up and she goes into the cabin, Simon's cabin, looking for him.
Because she finds Frank injured, and he says, "Go find Simon to help." But at this point, Simon has put together that she and Frank had conspired together to get his father killed.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, his mother, not his father.
The Countess.
His stepfather to kill his mother.
Yeah, it's confusing.
Yeah.
There's so many characters. Yeah. Hey, Leanne Roche. Good to see you.
So then we get our third strangulation death of the film with Simon killing Laura.
But don't pass up the fact that she did try to defend herself by throwing a pot of boiling water.
Oh, that's right.
Face. She goes right in his face
and does nothing.
Does nothing. He's Superman.
Wow, he looks pretty good for having boiling water just tossed in his face. Yes, because the fact that it really had no effect other than just like he let go of her for a moment. I almost forgot about it, but
yeah, no, it stood out to me because I'm like, he should be burned, bubbling flesh, everything, but he's not.
Yes.
So, yeah, makeup effects artist was off that day. So.
Like we gotta get stuff done. Who cares? He'll be dying in a few minutes anyways. Let's focus on that.
Exactly. Oh my. So he strangles her. She's dead. And I looked and I went, oh no, poor Laura. But she's dead. She's another one. She's gone.
Yes. And there is a shot of her like right after she has been killed, of her just laying dead on the floor. That is pretty chilling. Like she looks like very disturbing to me.
Visuals.
Yes, like visually, like she looks very convincingly strangled and dead. And also, it's different. It's not bloody or gory or visceral in that sense, but I don't like anything. I guess strangulation sometimes to me feels and it's a different type of horror than stabs and decapitation.
Right. It's the artistic photographer that Mario Bava is, that snapshot. Okay, we have to have a snapshot of that death and her laying.
And the lighting is really well done too, because it, like the way the shadows are accentuated, it gives it a very unnerving feel to it.
Yeah, and Edward Stewart. You can find this film right here on YouTube.
That's where I watched it.
Yes, it is right here on YouTube. So you can watch it right here on YouTube, believe it or not. Most of these Italian films you can find on YouTube. So that's a good thing. Thank you, Judy, again. So yes, so the next victim is Simon's going to end up going out of this shack, and he is confronted with the killer next, right?
Yes, and he gets speared.
Another spear scene, yeah.
Another spear, and we get a lot of shots of his face as he is in his death throes.
Later, CM.
Bye. Oh, bye, CM. Thank you for sticking around.
So yeah, so the next thing we do is get that scene where he gets,
and well, prior to that, like he's just kind of walking
When it's
around, and
something,
there's this very
yeah,
thematic, kind of beautiful, almost romantic music playing, and then he
yes,
gets
yeah.
stabbed, and the music cuts out, and then there's a shot of him like pinned to the door frame with the
And cue
spear in
romantic
him, and
music
again with
again.
this, yes, this big kind of grand score,
Yeah.
and I was
Yeah, no,
I
it was
wrote,
very
no
interesting.
music, I don't feel for this character.
Did you put that in
That
your
was
notes?
my note. That was my note. And I'm like, I did like Simon. But I wasn't like, oh no, I'm so sad that he's dead. He just killed a lot of people, but
Yeah,
yeah, the tonality with the score of this film and is very interesting to me.
it's interesting. Yeah, no. Greg McEwan, Greg McEwan. This review has actually made me want to watch the film first for me and Giallo. Well,
Oh, yay!
this is a classic, though. I mean, this is one of the good ones. But he was killed by Alberto because, again, Renata, the daughter of the Contessa, is forcing him now to become a murderer. And it's so funny how everybody's convincing everybody to kill, and it's all okay.
Yeah,
There's no fighting back and saying, listen, I can't do that. What do you, I mean, I don't know. It's all crazy.
yeah. And then there's like one final showdown between Albert and Franco Ventura. It's
Yes.
largely in the dark, but we don't see Ventura die, but it's pretty much it's implied. But then, okay, Renata and Alberto, they got away with it. They burned whatever evidence they needed to. They got all the stuff they needed. They killed
Yep.
everyone that they had to kill.
They're going to get the
Um,
bay.
yeah,
Yeah.
like they're putting stuff in the trunk. They're like, all
Yeah.
right, like we got this.
Okay. So,
And then,
okay. So this is the end. Can I do it? Can I say
yeah,
it?
yes, please.
Okay. So out of nowhere, the film shoots like you're wondering, is this a flashback too? But they flash to it's daytime, and like Elise said, they're putting the paperwork in the little, suitcase thing and stuff like that. Briefcase, not a suitcase, a briefcase. And they're like, yeah, this is gonna be great. We got the yeah. And then just like that, you get a glimpse of the rifle of a shotgun pointed at Albert and Renata, and boom, drops them dead. And it turns around, it's the two kids. It's their two kids. They shot their parents. And what do they say, Elise?
They're like, gee, mommy and daddy are really good at playing dead.
Yes, that's exactly
And then
what they say.
end of movie. And the music's like, sha la 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 la. And they just go running around the bay. And earlier,
Psychotic, crazy.
I had written a note like, well, like murders are happening. Just like, what are the children doing? And then this happened. And I just wrote, oh, they were playing with the shotgun, I guess. And apparently, don't bring a knife slash axe slash bill hook to a gunfight. No Chekhov's gun moment, just what the hell?
It makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, listen, you can look at it and go, okay, the kids they don't know what just happened. They're using this gun for the first time. They're left alone. They shouldn't be.
And it's like, violence and monstrosity perpetuates itself,
Yeah.
even among those that don't mean to, but there was no setup. Like there's no Chekhov's gun, literal or
Well, Mario
metaphorical.
Bava's,
Like it just
yeah.
happens.
So the
It's
only thought process behind it is we have this whole hour and a half movie where people are fighting for this land and they're killing for it. And you've got 13 kills, 13 kills. What was it? 7 men and 6 women?
6 ladies, yeah.
That's the official kill count. And it's all for nothing. In the end, all of that story was for nothing because these kids eliminated the whole hour and a half.
See, it's kind like, oh my gosh, if it's like Game of
Right?
Thrones or the way it should have gone, like you have all of people just fighting over like over who's going to inherit the throne and all, like, oh, this feudal kingdom, when it really is all meaningless because you have the threat of the White Walkers in the north that's just going to destroy everything, and ultimately these fights of inheritance and who's going to rule what really doesn't matter.
Exactly.
I don't know if that's what was the film.
If you think about it, that's exactly what happened. But I think that could have been eliminated from the movie, the ending, and it would have just made for kind of a typical ending to a typical Giallo. But in Mario Bava fashion, I think he just wanted to do something just a little bit different. And he threw us all off. And the whole hour and a half we just watched was for nothing, really. But anyways, yeah, it's the bottom of the hour. Yes, definitely got to watch it, Edward Stewart. So what would you give this out of a 10, Aleece? Bay of Blood for me, I would give this an 8, a solid 8 out of 10. I mean, that's pretty good for me.
For the movie that, like, the movie that it is for the genre, yeah, I think 8 out of 10. That's I would say I would agree on that. I will settle on that also, and just the fact that it kind of created the slasher genre, and we wouldn't have Friday the 13th or Scream or like slasher as we know them would not exist if it weren't for this movie. So credit where credit is due, and it is gorgeous to look at. It is the Bava's cinematography is like next to none. It's beautiful.
Again, if you think that for this and you love, I think you should check out Blood and Black Lace. It's a really beautifully shot film, and it's one of his earlier Giallo films, and I think you should give that a watch. But
well, I would love to.
Yes,
one that Christopher Lee wouldn't walk out of the theater in disgust over.
Yeah, listen, there's a whole lot more we could give you on this movie, because yes, Christopher Lee himself was so disgusted that he left. But there's more tidbits. But listen, I think we've gone through the entirety of this film pretty darn well, and a solid film. And like you said, I think there's certain films that are catalysts to things that we see now, and this is one of them. It just influenced so many people. Heck, Dario Argento, when this was filming, I forget where, he got somebody to take the actual reel out of the theater and give it to him, and they actually did play Hatchet for a Honeymoon the entire rest of the week because Dario Argento had the film reel. And he kept it. To this day, he has it. So yeah,
I did not know that. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting. But anyways, you guys, make sure you guys check out the Detective stream overnight tonight. Good list of shows for you. And we'll see you next time then. Any last words, Aleece?